All right, so we got just about 1 minute left before everybody starts to join. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. If you are on this call or if you're about to join this call, this is because you want to know the details of how to delete your repossessions. All right, guys, so it is 7 o'clock, and I am going to go ahead and because I like to start on time because I have other things to do. Okay. All right. About repossession. What is a repossession? So this guide it explains to you in detail as far as what a repossession is, and it also includes template letters that off to the consumer reporting agencies and the furnishers. Okay. All right, guys. And I know y'all probably my glasses, my children been messing with my glasses, y'all, and they was jumping on the bed because I always sleep with my glasses and take them off, and they didn't got my glasses crooked. I've been trying to straighten them up, but what's that little game y'all be playing? We listen, we don't judge. Don't judge my glasses tonight, y'all. They look a little off, all right? But I got to see. All right, let's talk about it. So let me get this about my way right here. All right, so what is a repossession? A repossession occurs when a lender or creditor takes back collateral, which is the vehicle, after a borrower, which is us, allegedly defaults on a loan. Of course, we all know that a default happens when we get behind on our car notes, right? However, repossessions alone does not automatically mean make credit reporting lawful, right? So before a creditor, which is the person who we purchased a vehicle from, who we borrowed or who we applied for the loan, before a creditor can sell the vehicle, claim a deficiency balance, or report a repossession or a balance to credit bureaus with their consumer reporting agencies, they must strictly comply with UCC Article 9, Part 6, and the South Carolina Consumer Law. Now, I don't know what state that you're in. You can be in Georgia, you can do in North Carolina, you can be in Florida, Arizona, you can be in a different state. Okay. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to look up your state laws along with this federal law, which is the article UCC Article 9 and Part 6. Okay. So um in mine I have South Carolina because I'm in the state of South Carolina. So you're just going to tweak yours a little bit when you do purchase this letter. You want to tweak yours to where it would fit your state and your repossession, of course. All right. So they must strictly comply with UCC Article 9, Part 6, and the South Carolina Consumer Law. So why UCC Article 9, Part 6? Because it speaks about repossessions. It speaks about when you go into default, what should and should not happen during that process. All right. Now, if the creditors fail any step, the repossession and any balance becomes legally unenforceable and inaccurate. So let's talk about the governing laws in South Carolina. Again, you will find the laws in particular to your state. South Carolina Uniform Commercial Code is Title 36, Commercial Code. And then you have Article 9, which is the security transactions. And then you have Part 6, which is the default. That's the section that we're going to get into. This section controls everything after default, including the repossession, the notices, the sale of the vehicle, deficiency balances, and the consumer protections. All right, so UCC Article 9, Part 6 is the key section that we're going to explain tonight. So, Section 609 talks about the right to take possession of the vehicle. So once you go into default, this section pretty much says a creditor may repossesses the collateral only if it is done without a breach of peace. If the repossession itself was improper, reporting is challenged. Now, I know you're probably thinking like, what do you mean if it's done without a breach of peace? Well, think about it. Do you have a chain on your on a gate that they may have broken into to get on access to the property to get the vehicle? Did they break into your garage and tow the vehicle out the garage? Were you in your car at the time when they pulled up to tow the vehicle and they was very rude? They were using observed language. It caused the confusion and recorded. Anytime that you guys go through a repossession and you are dealing with the person that's coming to pick up the vehicle, you always want to make sure that you take your phone out and record. The only thing that you have to say is, hey, this is not a right time. Please come at a different time to pick up the vehicle. Make sure that this is on recording when you do it, because after that point, you're not being abusive, you're not being loud, you're not being outrageous, so there's no reason for the person to come to pick up your vehicle to just be oblivious. Okay, so make sure that you say exactly that, and then you make sure it's on recording, and then you record everything that happens after that. Why? Because this is an example of that breach of peace. Once you state that to them, they're like, no, we're gonna take that vehicle, go ahead and get your at the car, and we finna go ahead and load it up. Or they want to act like they want to start putting your car on the truck while you in it. Make sure you get all of that. That is an example of a breach of peace. Now, remind you guys, this is actually a federal law. Okay, so that is an example of a breach of peace. Again, if the repossession itself was improper, reporting is challenged, which means that you can actually challenge the reporting because they breached the peace. All right. Now, section 610, it talks about it being that the repossession turn into a commercially reasonable sale, which means after repossession, the creditor must sell the vehicle in a commercially reasonable manner. This includes fair market timing, proper sale method at an auction or a private sale, or for a reasonable price. Now, if the vehicle sale was like rush, undocumented, underpriced, that's a violation. So, for example, for that, like say if I come to repossess a vehicle, I work for the repossession company. I got this friend that need a car and say, hey, I just repossessed this vehicle, dog. You better come and get this vehicle right now. I'm gonna just go ahead and sell it to you. Don't worry about no paperwork. Just come on and get it now. That's a violation. They cannot do that. All right, section 611 talking about mandatory pre-sale notice. Okay, this is very important. Before they sell the vehicle, they must send you a written notice. Okay, so I put here the creditor must send a written notice before selling the vehicle. Now, this is not my law. This is actually coming directly from the actual law. Okay, now I'm actually going to pull up this section really quick. Hopefully, you guys can still see this, but this is 601, which talks about the right to get the vehicle. And let me see if I can just jump to quick. And I want to jump down to 610, I believe it was. And this is how you guys get here. Like I said, this is strictly federal law. All right, so this is the specific law, guys. All right, it's called disposition of collateral after default. It says after default, a secured party may sell, lease, license, or otherwise dispose of any or all of the collateral in its present condition or following any commercially reasonable preparation or proceeding. All right. Now, C, it says purchased by secured party. It says a secured party may purchase collateral at a public disposition or at a private disposition only if the collateral is a kind that is customarily sold on a recognized market or the subject of widely distributed standard price quotations. And let's see here. Let's go to 611, which talks about the notice before disposition of collateral, which is where we're currently at right now. So, notice before disposition of collateral. It says in this section, notification date means the earlier of the dates on which 1A, a secured party sends to the debtor, which again, the secured party is the person who you purchase the vehicle from, as far as the loan, and then we are the debtors. The debtor or any secondary obligator an authenticated notification of disposition, or two, the debtor and any secondary obligator waives the right to notification. B, notification of disposition required except as otherwise provided in subsection D. A secured party that disposes of collateral under section 9610 shall, which means they don't have a choice, they shall send to the person specified in subsection C a reasonable authenticated notification of dispositions. All right. C, persons to be notified. It's telling you who should be notified and where it is going. To comply with subsection B, the secured party shall send an authenticated notification of disposition to one, the debtor, two, any secondary obligator, and three, if the collateral is other than consumer goods. All right. All right. So let's jump back here. All right. So again, section 611 just pretty much saying that it's mandatory, which I just read, where it says shall send a pre-sale notice. The creditor must send written notice before selling the vehicle. The notice must be sent to the consumer, sent before disposition, and properly delivered. No notice equals automatic Article 9 violation. As y'all just saw, that I just also read on here, it says that they shall send it to you all. Here you go, right here. Let's go on back up. It says shall. All right. That means they do not have a choice. It's all right here. All right. All right here. This whole entire section. Like I said, this is federal law. This is required for everybody. Now, when it talks about any secondary obligators, that's where it comes into play for you all who like to go ahead and co-sign on loans. You are the secondary obligator. All right. Now, section 614, consumer goods. Consumer goods and transaction requirements. For auto loans and consumer vehicles, the notice must include specific disclosures, such as how the vehicle will be sold, time and place of sale, explanation of the deficiency rights. If they miss the disclosures, it's an invalid sale. All right. All right. Now, section 615 talks about the application of proceeds. The creditor must properly apply a sale proceeds, fees and expenses, remaining balance. They must be able to prove the math. That means the math must work. If there's no accounting done, the math ain't mathing, there's no lawful deficiency. Now let's talk about what the deficiency is, right? So if a balance remains after they do the math, as far as like your loan was 25,000, how much you paid, and then they have to calculate into how much they sold a vehicle for. Once all that information is calculated, it's called a deficiency balance that's going to be left. So if the math ain't laughing, and if there's a balance that's remaining, the creditor must provide a written explanation showing the sale price, amount applied, and how the deficiency was calculated. All right. No explanation equals no deficiency barrier. Now let's go there. Let's go to 616. Now, before I get there, y'all, there is a certain time frame that you must send the notification before disposition of the collateral. They have a time frame that they must send the notification to you all as far as the disposition for the vehicle being before the the repossession of the vehicle and all that kind of stuff. So make sure that you guys also read that too. It's section 612. All right. So now the next section talks about the contents and the form of the notification before disposition of collateral. So this talks about what is inside that form. So we can go over it very quickly. All right. It says one, the contents of a notification of disposition are sufficient if the notification A describes the debtor in the secured party, B describes the collateral that is the subject of the intended disposition, C states the method of intended disposition, D states that the debtor is entitled to an accounting of the unpaid indebtedness and states the charge, if any, for an accounting. E states the time and place of a public disposition or the time after which any disposition is to be made. Two, whether the contents of a notification that lacks any of the information specified in paragraph one are nevertheless sufficient in a question of fact. Three, the contents of a notification providing substantially the information specified in paragraph one are sufficient, even if the notification includes A, information not specified by that paragraph, or B, minor errors that are not seriously misleading. Four, a particular phrasing of the notification is not required. Now, five, the following form of notification in the form appearing in section 9.6.14.3, when completed, each provides sufficient information. So this is an example right here, guys, of how that notification of disposition of collateral should look when it comes to you. This is it right here. The name the name of the obligator or the secondary obligator from the secured party, let's just say Navy Federal or whoever, and then they're going to tell you that the car is for a public disposition, that we will sell the car. They're going to describe it 2016 Nissan Maxima, black or white, red or pink. They're going to describe the car. It's going to tell you the date and the time. The day and date, the time and the place. It's going to tell you if it's for a private disposition or not. And then it will also say the same thing here. We will sell or lease or whatever privately sometime after the date and the day. But this is exactly what that form should look like if it's private, and then if it's publicly, this one right here. This is what it looks like. Okay. And this is before the disposition of the collateral. All right. Now, let's see here. All right. Now that's talking about property. All right. So 615 talks about the application of proceeds of disposition, which we also went over as well. Liability for deficiency and right to surplus. So it says a secured party shall apply or pay over for application the cash proceeds of disposition under section 916 in the following order. Two, one, the reasonable expenses of retaking, holding, preparing for disposition, processing, and dispositioning, and to the extent provided for by agreement and not prohibited by law, reasonable attorney fees and legal expenses incurred by the secured party. Two, the satisfaction of obligations secured by the security interest or agricultural lien under which the disposition is made. Three, the satisfaction of obligations secured by any subordinate security interest in or other subordinate lien on the collateral if the secured party receives from the holder of the subordinate secured interest or other lien and authenticate demand for proceeds before distribution of the proceeds is completed, and B, in a case in which a co-signer has an interest in the collateral, the subordinate security interest or other lien is senior to the interest of the co-signer, and for a secured party that is a co-signer of the collateral, if the secured party receives from the co-signer an authenticate demand for proceeds before distribution of the proceeds is completed. All right. So that's that. So again, guys, I'm just going over these laws to pretty much show you guys that the information that's inside of here is not, I'm not talking outside of my neck. This is very true. Okay. And they definitely have to explain these things to you guys. They have to provide you guys with these notices. They have to follow these actual guidelines. Now, here is the surplus or deficiency if obligation is secured. It says if the security interest under which a disposition is made secures payment or performance of an obligation after making the payments and applications required by subsection A and permitted by subsection C. One, unless subsection A4 requires the secured party to apply or pay over cash proceeds to a cosigner, the secured party shall account to and pay a debtor for any surplus, and two, the obligator is liable for any deficiency. E, no surplus or deficiency in sales of certain rights to payment. If the underlying transaction is a sale of accounts, chattel paper, payment intangibles, or promissory notes, one, the debtor is not entitled to any surplus, and two, the obligator is not liable for any deficiency. All right, now it talks about the calculation of surplus or deficiency in disposition to persons related to secured party. Now, this is just showing you how the calculation should actually go, guys. I'm not going to go back over all of that. I want to get back to the actual letter so we can talk about the actual letters and the deletions and stuff like that. But I wanted to point this out to you guys and bring this up so you guys will be able to go back and see, and you guys actually study these laws on your actual own, okay? Now, after the explanation of the deficiency, you have remedies, which is 625. So, if the creditor fails any requirement as far as when it comes to the repossession, they lose the rights to a deficiency. The consumer may recover damages, continue reporting becomes legally inaccurate. All right. So now we're going to get into why repossessions get deleted from consumer reports. All right. A repossession cannot be verified for credit reporting unless the furnisher can prove a lawful repossession, proper notice, commercially reasonable sale, a lawful deficiency calculation. If they cannot produce documents, then under 15 USC 1681 EB, which is maximum possible accuracy, 15 USC 1681 S2B, which is a post dispute duty to investigate, the trade line must be deleted. Now, here are deletion templates that I did include. All right. Now, template one, you're going to send to the consumer reporting agencies. It strictly says read demand for deletion, unverified repossession. You're going to put the account number that's underneath that account. And then you're going to write to whom it may concern. I am formally disputing the accuracy and legality of the above referenced repossession being reported on my consumer credit report. Under South Carolina Code Title 36, Article 9, Part 6, a creditor must strictly comply with statutory requirements before reporting a repossession or any alleged deficiency balance. The deficiency balance is the amount that they always say that you owe after they supposedly sell the vehicle and do all the calculations that you paid and you didn't pay and all the other extra stuff. That's the deficiency balance. Now, it says, to date, no evidence has been produced demonstrating compliance with section 611, 614, which is mandatory pre-sale notice, 610, commercially reasonable disposition, 615, proper application of sale proceeds, 616, written deficiency as absent strict compliance. South Carolina law bars any deficiency and renders continued credit reporting inaccurate. Pursuant to 15 USC 1681 EB and 1681 S2B, verification requires actual documentary proof, not automatic systems or internal records. Oh, come on, too fast. All right, here's the demand. If you cannot produce the required Article 9 documentation, you must delete this trade line immediately from all consumer reporting agencies. Or you can just put, like I said, I would recommend that this letter go out to, because I originally send it to the consumer reporting agencies and the the creditors, but I strictly would like this letter to go directly to the consumer reporting agency. So you can just actually put, if you cannot produce the required Article 9 documentation, you must delete this trade line immediately, and then just end it, and then put sincerely your name. Now, template 2, after I kind of went back over it, I will actually send this to the furnisher or the creditor. It pretty much says, please provide the following documents. You're asking them for the documents that's within the laws. The predisposition notice, proof of delivery of notice, the sale records and method of disposition, accounting of the sale proceeds, and the written deficiency explanation. Why do you want all this documentation? Because you want to make sure the math is mathing. Because if not, guess what the law says? It says that you can't collect on damages. Now I'm gonna tell y'all this: if I want to collect on damages after they have repossessed my vehicle, my damages would be the cost of the purchase of the another vehicle who I want to get. So if I want to go ahead and get that Genesis, or if I want to get me a Mercedes, or if I want to get me a Lexus, whatever car it is, how much ever that car is, that finance charge with everything included for that car, that's the damages that I want them to pay me for. So that we ain't got to pay out of pocket. I want them to pay for that car. I'm just throwing that out there, right? So to continue, it says their failure to produce this documentation constitutes non-compliance and invalidates continued credit reporting. Now, template 3, which is a method of verification, you're going to send to the consumer reporting agencies, because y'all know they like to stall, and they always like to say that they've already verified this information and this information is true, and they have not verified a dang thing. So read method of verification, repossession account. Please identify the specific documents reviewed, the individual or department who verified the account, whether UCC Article 9 Part 6 compliance documents were examined. Verification without reviewing Article 9 documentation violates 15 USC 1681 IA. All right. Now, how are you going to use this guide? You're going to pull your consumer report. You're going to identify the repossession trade line. You're going to send your template 1 to the consumer reporting agencies. You're going to send template 2 to the furnisher. And then you're going to follow template 3. When the consumer reporting agency reply that's verified, updated, validated, you're going to send the method of verification letter to them. And then you're also going to escalate, which means you're going to make a complaint to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And then you're going to make a complaint to the Attorney General if needed. That's in your state. All right, so that's it as far as our repossession, guys. Please make sure that you do go to the UCC Article 9, Section 6 about defaults, and make sure that you guys study this material. Important note that I stuck in here, that repossession deletions succeed not because the debt exists, but because the law requires proof, and most lenders, and most definitely the consumer reporting agencies, cannot produce. That is it for tonight. Thank you all for joining along. Hopefully that your repossessions get deleted. You all enjoy your nights.